Okay, so we're going to be trying to do this phone app. I mean, it's not like a phone app, but it looks like as if it's a phone app. Well, basically, this is some kind of a lot of different kind of layouts within this here. I can do it in different ways. What I'm suggest, for example, is that this part here, instead of having this whole thing one layout, I will split it into two layouts. I mean, two panels. So this is going to be one panel. In that panel, I'm going to add this text field, and there's going to be another panel. In that panel, I'm going to add the buttons. And how these two panels are going to be ordered or laid out, I'm going to use these, some kind of, maybe the easiest one that I'm thinking about is the border layout. Why the border? Because this can be north, this panel is going to be north, and this would be south, or would be the center, which will take the rest. That would be the easiest that I think of. You might use some other ones if you want to, but I think this one is... Sorry? South?
We don't need to do anything. We make the grid.
I didn't get your suggestion.
I did. I made the text field.
Yes.
North, border north.
Okay. The panel that has the text field is north.
Yes. And I didn't put anything to this. I made the
You
panel
just-
itself as a grid.
But this panel, the second panel, you added it,
Yes.
and then without specifying if it was north, south, and everything. Well, I think if you do that, by default, this is the center.
Yes.
So that's the same thing. Yes. You had a suggestion? You could have used flow layout, but the flow layout actually is going to... I don't know how flow layouts are... I mean, panels are behaving within flow layout. So that's why... Did you try the flow layout?
Yes, I did.
So it's working the same similarly? All right. But how the flow layout is going to put them one next to the other, no? Or just put this one and then this second one? I have no idea. I didn't try it with the flow layout. That's probably then what you'll get. That's what I was thinking. But I don't know if it's working like this. It gives you this kind of output. Okay. So anyway, you can do that in different ways. But I mean, what I think is I'm going to go with is this to be north and the other one to be centered. And this one is going to be a grid layout of 4 rows, 3 columns. And this one is just add the text field into that panel that's going to be on the north. So let's just do that. Let's create a new project and call it the phone app. You know what, I'm going to do something like, because sometimes I get lost in which week we did what, so I'm going to go to week 4 phone app. And well, let's leave the main and add a new class that is going to be the phone, let's say. And it's going to be extending the JFrame. Now, of course, I did not use control space. That's why I don't have the import. Now with the control space, I have the import, and that's fine. Let me insert the constructor. So in the constructor, let's do the usual. I don't know. Just set the title, phone, let's say, or what is JPanel is called. I can use the same just to have something similar to what was there. Then the set location. This is just to show it in the center of my screen. Then set size. I don't know what size. What size did you use? 400. All right. And set default close operation to be exit or close. Now the set layout. So the layout manager is going to be the border layout. If I would like to play with the gaps, I could, but I'm not interested now. So now what I need to do to have my components. So I have JPanels. So I'm going to call it panel text field. Well, maybe. Well, okay, screen, whatever. Okay. Or display. Maybe I prefer display. So let's just have this, and then I'm having another panel. Let's call them buttons. And then let's initialize those. So now the screen, but I need also the other things. Let me just which one I would like to have? The text field. Yeah, I could make them private. Text field. So got it. Display. And the buttons. Oh, I'm going to do it straightforward, and then I'm going to show you another better way to do that. But the straightforward one is just to have a lot of buttons, copy and paste, and button 1, button 2, etc. That's the thing. But there's a way maybe to improve that, because too many buttons like these, there's maybe a way to, by using arrays. Yes, I can do that. So now I'll just do it simply. Let's create button 0, because I have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and there's no 10. There's this star. What do you mean JPanel will do? This one is going to be the panel screen that I'm going to put north, and this one is going to be the panel buttons that I'm going to put in the center.
When I did it using the JPanel, but it's divided by
Well, you could use only text field and put it north, and then the panel, and that panel put it center. That's another way. Yes, that's also possible. Yeah. But I think what you don't get is that this kind of border, like if you use this text field and the north, I think it's going to take more of the north, and not the border here is going to be a little bit kind of small, I think. And well, by using this panel, I think probably it will be taken maybe more. I don't know. I'm going to try that. So first of all, what I'm going to do, just to show this, let's initialize the panels. This panel, we have like the panel display is a new panel, JPanel, and yeah, I can specify the layout manager in it. Let's go maybe center. Just the flow. By default is the flow layout, so I'm going to keep it actually, because in the panel display I'm going to add to that panel display only the text field. And then for the buttons, it's a new panel, but that panel actually, you see, I can specify the layout manager, and the layout manager is going to be new grid layout. And the grid layout, I will specify that I need 4 rows and 3 columns. Later on I can play with the gaps if I want to. Okay, now before putting anything inside of them, I need to prepare actually what I'm putting. Let's talk about the text field. Call new JText field, and then I'm just going to maybe specify the size. Well, I'm not going to put 0, I'll just put it empty, and then the size. Alright, let's just, you played with numbers, 16 seemed to be fine, so let's use that one. So now in the panel display I'm going to add this text field. So now what I did, I just added the text field to the panel, and actually this panel, I will add this panel to the frame. Just to show you that, I mean, maybe so it will be clear, I'm adding this to the J frame, and I need to specify that this is going to be like border layout north. Oh yes, the display, sorry. This one, no. Just to make it clear that this is the frame, J-frame. But if I remove it, that's not, yeah, it's not necessary.
So you can't do it in one line?
I can do it in one line. Which one? These three?
No, the last.
This one?
Yes.
I can do it in one line, but it's already one line. I don't get your question. 48, yes.
Yes, yeah. It's the same.
Well, it's not the same. This is I'm adding the text field to the panel, and here I'm adding the panel to the frame.
Yeah, you can do it in one line.
Like, what do you want like to type?
Uh,
What do you want to do to one line? It's good.
Banner that add Textfield display, that folder layout, that
This border layout,
yes.
but this panel display, you don't add this as a border layout, because what's the layout inside this panel display? I did not specify any, so it's the flow layout by default. So it's not a border layout in this panel display. This panel display has a flow layout, and let me maybe make it more explicit by doing something like flow layout. Now this panel display has a flow layout, and this, now the layout of the whole frame is a border layout. So the border layout, if I added, I need to mention which place. So that's why this add here is about the border layout, and I'm specifying the north. But having them in one line, I don't know if that is going to be, I mean, it might be more confusing than helping. Now that I have done this, what I need to do is to add. Now I prepared this to be the grid layout. I did not put anything inside of it, and I'm going to add this panel button as just, I think by default, if you don't put anything, it should be center. So I'm just putting it as center more specifically. So I just would like to see what would this look like. So I just new phone dot set visible. No. Okay, and run. So this gives me this type of things. I mean, now this, you can see that this is this panel is going to be on top. So I just would like to show you the difference about what if I don't use this panel. So for example, if I don't use the panel, I just would like, instead of you adding the panel to the north, I'm going to add the text field display to the north, and this is going to be this kind of result, as you can see. So this is just like checking the whole thing and see there's no borders. I can play with that. I can just maybe add some borders. If when I specify these border layouts, I can maybe specify the gap to add more gap, like 5, something like that. And now this is going to become nothing. I was expecting more. What do you mean? Well, yes, that's what I was doing here. When I did this, this actually giving me some kind of space, because there's a gap that comes with the panel. And then, if I'd like to take the whole thing, I could maybe just find instead of making this a flow layout, I can make this to be a border layout. So I have a border layout for the frame, and the first panel is another border layout, and this panel, I'm just adding it. If I'm adding this text field to the panel, it's going to be the center, and by default, so this is going to basically end up doing the same thing. But what I could do is do something that, if I add this to be border dot north, how about border layout dot north, then I might end up having some, well, it's the same thing. No, I was thinking maybe it will show me some different ways, but no. Anyways, Let's keep it back as it was, flow layout. If I would like to make it bigger, I could just maybe make it bigger, and that's one way to deal with that. And then, well, I'll play with that later. Now, maybe just add the buttons now to this panel. So I need to initialize 12 buttons. That's, you see, doing it this way is kind of, it's kind of not the easiest way. Let's face it. I don't want to spend too much time doing this, because there's an easier way, and I'm just going to make an array of buttons. And the array of buttons actually is going to be convenient if I use only the ones with the numbers, and I will keep these as some kind of special cases, because, well, there's some kind of special case. But what I'm going to do now, because the advantage of using this in an array, I can use that in a loop. So it's going to be an array of 10 buttons, and I just need to initialize them. So let me just initialize. So this is the panel. I'm just going to add the panel later, but what I'm going to do now, just preparing the buttons. So to prepare the buttons, we have button, first of all, no, equal new j button, and it's 10. Now I initialized the array. Now I have an array of 10 buttons. That means each one of these buttons, I need to initialize them. In each element I need to initialize it by instantiating a new object. Which, what I mean with that is that what I need to do, actually, basically, I'm going to do it manually, but then I'll put it in a loop. But I'd like to show what I'm going to do. The button 0, that is the element at button 0, I need to have it a new button. So, and what's the text that goes into this button 0? Well, because it's 0, let's put it 0, for example. So now what I'm going to put is this to be there. Now, once I've done this, I'm going to do the same thing for 1, 2, etc. And you can see here's the loop. So I can put this in a loop. So instead of doing this manually, what I will do is a for loop for I from 0 to less than 10, because I would like to have 9. And I'm going to do now I, and now this is, well, I can put a string plus I, or I can convert it, because just so you can know how to convert now I. So this I is going to convert to a text, and I'm going to put it as a text of the button based on that button. So button 0 is the button that we show 0, button 1, etc. And this is going to initialize the 10 buttons. Of course, I still need to manually initialize the button star equal new, because it's not possible to have that in a loop. So I'm going just to put the star to be the star, and then the button hash to be equal new j button. Wow. Yes.
Now on the j button, how does it how it will be read from 0? I mean 0 to be down.
Well, I did not put it in the panel yet. So what I did now, just prepared it, so they are in the memory, but I did not put them anywhere. So now if I'd like to put them, I will put them one by one. But if I'd like to start, I will start to have this kind of layout. I should start with 1, 2, 3, and so on. Because, yeah, with the add, when I'm going to add to the panel, I will have another loop that will add them to the panel in the same order that I would like them to be. So now I just initialize them. Now if I'd like to add them to the panel, I will have a loop from, I mean, how many items I'm going to add. So these 3 lines, that means 3 times 3, that's 9. So from 0 to, is it from 0? Because 0, I'm not starting from 0, let's go start from 1 to less than 10. So what I'm going to do in this new one, and in loop I'm going to start from 1 less than 10. And what I'm going to do is that in these panel buttons I'm going to add the button I. Now this loop here is going to adding buttons 1 to 9. So the buttons 1 to 9 are going to be added just with this loop. Let's see that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, and then we have the space left for the rest that we have not added yet. So that's a nice way. And maybe what I could do is shorten it, make it smaller, because the buttons looks quite big. Yeah, this maybe. All right, and now I need to add the star, right? On the left it's the star 0 and then the hash. So now let's add the rest. So this panel buttons dot add, I'm going to add the button star, then the rest I'm doing them manually. So now this is going to be button 0 and the other one is the hash. Everybody's okay with that? So far, just like an easier way to add these buttons at once. Now if I would like to have some space between these, I could just put some more gaps here by putting like, I don't know, 5, 5, which means now I have I'm putting some 5 pixels of gap between the buttons. So it's up to now it's fine, right? Now what I need to do is that if I click on one of these buttons, I need to that this thing will be displayed. The easiest way to do that is not to have an anonymous class and not to have a named inner class, but is to have just to implement the action listener, because I'm going to attach all these buttons to this class, and then I will try to see by using the get action command to know which button actually was clicked, and I'm going to, whatever was in that button, I'm going to add it. And actually you're going to see it's much more convenient because let's just implement it first. So implement action listener, and it's going to be asking us to implement all methods, and let's go for this one. Now what am I doing is that I need to know which button was pressed. How to do that is with the e.get action command. Okay, well, now that I have it, why would I like to see dot equals? If I have this text, now this is going to give me the text of the button that was pressed. Now what I need to do, take this text, add it to the text field. So what I'm going to do is that, first of all, I'm just going to do it in small steps. Let's get what was before in the text field, because I would like to keep, you know what, let's do step by step. I will just go to text field, display. I will set the text to be this. Now, what does this mean? This is going to give me the text of the button that was clicked, right? And the text of the button that was clicked, I'm going to put it as the text of the text field. This will result in me, if I type something, well, nothing happens, because I did not associate the action listener to these buttons. So in order to do that, first of all, in the initialization part, I need to say that each one of these buttons, the add action listener is this. Plus I need to do the same for the button star and for the button hash. So that's the convenience, because it's the same code that is going to be applied to all the buttons and the others. Now doing this, if I run now, if I press on something, this is going to be displayed exactly what I pressed. But it's replacing because it's not keeping track of what was before. Now, if I'd like to keep track of what was before, I should not do this. What I should do is that actually give me what was before. So give me the text, no, not the text. And you add to the text this new thing that was added. So give him what was before, and then add the text of the button that was clicked. And you see, it's much easier than having a lot of different inner classes and anonymous action listener. Let's try it first, and then just to make sure it works. Now you see, if I press on something, it just keeps adding them. Yes. Yes, a question. So this is one way to do that. Yes.
Flip the order of
Line
line 71.
71.
The order of the
Oh yes. Yeah. If we do that, then I'm going to add to the left. So, for example, if I run this now, if I press this one, now the 2 is going to be on the left of the text that was before. So I'm going to see 2 here, and then so whatever I press is going to be the last thing to be added. All right. So you can see now it's much better to have. In some cases, this implements action listener makes sense, rather than having like every inner class or an anonymous inner class. That's going to be more code.
We have anonymous
Inner class, yes.
class. How can we link it with array?
Well, it's the same thing. It's just instead of you having a loop, you're going to be having this thing to do. Inside your code, this is going to be, for example, the thing to do. Instead of e.getAction command, well, you know which button was pressed, so you're going to be adding 1, for example. For you, if the button was 1, you're going to be doing this, and then 2, and then you have another 1, and then for 3, and then so it's going to be more just copy and paste basically, and just a small change. All right. I just would like to use this opportunity to introduce something else, something that we haven't seen yet. And there's something interesting. You see, and I see that there's a need for that. You see this one? Now I pressed a lot of buttons, and then I would like to start some kind of reset thing, just to start from, erase everything and to start from scratch again. And I can add a button, but I would like to show you something different. I would like to show you a menu. I would like to have some kind of a menu, then if I click on it, it will do something else. And this is what I'm going to do, inshallah. So let's keep moving and doing the same thing. Okay, if I'd like to use a menu, okay, I can use that menu by different ways. I can also the same way. I can just let's declare a menu. So there are different things that I need to use if I need a menu. I need a menu first is a J menu. That's the first thing that I need. And there's another one. I will need a menu item, which is a menu is this. This is the menu, like this file or edit. This is one menu. Then, if I'd like to have many menus, like these ones, I will have to declare many of them. Now I'm just declaring one because I'd like to have something like this file only. So now, if I click on this one, I have many menu items. So each one of these are menu items. So I need each one to have a new menu item. So I'm going to declare menu item, and this is going to be, for example, the menu item clear. If I click on it, it's going to clear the text field. I just would like only have to one. Later on, I need another one just to see, or maybe one for closing. Let's add another one. Yeah, okay, let's just another one to close. So now it's quite straightforward. It's like any buttons that I have. I need to just initialize them. So the menu is equal to jmenu. That's, I just need to, and then in here this needs to mention the text. What should appear? Like for example, here if I put files, it should be file or something like that, or options, something like that. Something now that was added. So this is the text that I'm going to see here at the menu level. Now inside that menu I have a menu item, so I need to prepare the menu item. We said we have like two menu items now, the clear and the close. So the clear is a new jmenu item, and I'm just going to make the text to be clear, and copy and paste to have for the close, and make it close for exit. So this is going to be like stopping the program. Now I need to put some code in it, so I need to have an action listener. Well, you know what, just let's add an action listener, but I don't want to add this to be this one, because this one I reserve it for the only for the buttons. So I'm going to create a new anonymous one, or I could have used an inner class, a named inner class. I'll just say anonymous because it's more convenient. So now in here what I'm going to do, this is doing only one thing, is that the text field, the set text, is an empty string. So if I click on the clear, what would happen is that the text field becomes empty. And let's just copy this and paste it here, because I would like to do something similar with the close, but instead of doing something I just would like to stop. So how to stop? System dot exit.
Why we do not use set default close operation?
Set, well, if you say set default close operation, just mention that if you click on the X, it will close. Now I would like to, if I click on this button, I would like to stop the program. So the system.exit is the one that stops the program. I just need to mention a code. I don't want to mention any code. So this system.exit means stops the program, and that's what I'd like to do when I click on this close. Now I need to specify in which order. Now I said that I will have a menu called options, and if I click on this option, I'd like to see what? Clear first, then exit, or exit, then close. I need to, it's the same way that when you add a component into another container, the order, it makes a difference. Now what I'm going to do is that this clear, I'm going to add it to this menu. So I'm going to add to the menu the clear first, and then I'm going to sorry?
We don't add the menu itself.
Well, we need to add the menu itself later. Yeah, but we have. I'm coming to that. So I need to add these items to the menu. Now the menu, I need to add it to the frame, but to do that I need to use something called a menu bar. This menu bar is the, let's call it the bar. So this is the bar that is going to be this top, this bar here, that is going to be added, in which I need to add this menu bar. So I will just initialize that. New menu bar. And all I need to do is just to say bar.add, again, same idea. I'll add the menu. Please. No, you have to do it in this way. I mean, you have to create a menu bar. In that menu bar, you're going to add a menu, and then the menu you're going to add an item, because the menu bar can have many menus. Each menu is like one of these. This is a menu. This is another menu. This is another menu. So you have a menu bar that has that may have many menus, and each menu may have many menu items. And actually, you can have also a menu item that has another item, something like that. We could do some hierarchy like this. but this is maybe for another day. But this is not enough. Now I need to this bar. I need to add it to the frame. So set jmenu bar. There's a setter to set the menu bar for the frame. There's only one menu bar for the whole frame. You cannot have more than one. There's only one menu per frame. You cannot have more than one. So that's why there's a setter that says, okay, set the menu bar. So let's just summarize. We created the menu and the menu items that we added to the menu. And then once we had the menu ready, we created the menu bar that we added the menu to it. And then this menu bar, we just added it to the frame. I just like to make it sure that you understand that this is the one coming from the frame. So this is added. This is confusing, so let's remove it. I thought maybe it's more clear. So now, after I've done this, if I run, I'm having these new options that just appeared. And you can see that the space that was added because this is a menu bar. And then if I click on the menu bar, I have two options, the clear and exit. Now if I click on the clear, it's going to erase, but let's put something to erase first. Now clear, it's done. And the exit exits. And this is a way how to add menus and menu bars. So as you can see, there's some other options, but I'm just going for the straightforward ones. But you can also add some kind of icons, like the same way that we can have here. See, this have some kind of icon next to the text. You can also have these kind of shortcuts that you can add, but this is another story. Yes.
On the exit system.
System.exit.
Yeah. Can I replace it with the default? I mean, with the close.
No, because it's there. It's already here. The set default here. That means that, what does this mean? This means that if I click on the X, it will close. But if I don't click on the X, it will not close. So if you just take this code here and put it inside here, it means now, if you click on the X, you will close the program.
I mean, now if I remove the set default, and I just was left with the system exit, it will stop running?
I don't get your question. If I remove here, you said if I remove this one, so let's remove it.
And then on the program,
Okay.
if I press on exit, on exit,
No, this exit is going to
it will
stop the program regardless. This line here means that if somebody clicks on this one, it's not going to hide the window. It's going to stop the program. If I click on here, now this exit means if I click on this exit, stop the program. So it's not about clicking here. This set default is only about this button over here to make it active, that if I click on it, it will stop. That's the only thing that it does. Yes.
Can we change the place of the menu?
The menu is generally on top. You want to change it to put it in the button, for example, or
Right.
or this one to be aligned right? Well, I think yes. For this alignment, you can just do something about it. This right to left and left to right. There's some options about it. I didn't try that, but it's, I think, probably possibly you can do that.